My name is Brianna Knox, and I am 25, and I work as a nurse in Ohio. People meet me now and assume I had a normal childhood. They see a calm voice, steady hands, and a polite smile. They do not see what happened behind closed doors. For 18 years, my father, Franklin Knox, hurt me, again and again, and my mother, Elaine Knox, watched it happen. She did not stop him. She did not protect me. She only explained him. She said I provoked him. She said I should have been quieter. She said he was under stress. In public, Franklin was a hero. He volunteered at church, shook hands after service, and smiled for photos. Elaine played the perfect wife, baking casseroles, greeting people warmly, and praising Franklin as a good man. I learned early that the mask mattered more than my bruises. I learned to speak softly, and sit still, and swallow words that could save me. My little brother Noah Knox grew up watching me disappear. He learned to stay small too, and that is what still breaks me. The worst part was not the fear, it was the permission. Elaine gave Franklin permission every time she blamed me. Every time she said, "You know how he gets," she handed him another excuse. I used to lie in bed and count the minutes, listening for footsteps, praying the night would stay quiet. At school, I wore long sleeves, and I smiled, and I told teachers I was clumsy. At church, I stood beside Franklin, and people told me I was lucky to have such a strong father. I wanted to scream, but screaming was dangerous. So I saved my screaming for later, and I called it a plan. I worked after school, saved small amounts, and hid cash where Franklin never looked. I filled out nursing program paperwork in secret and mailed it from a different post office. I told myself that if I could reach 18, I could leave. I told myself that adulthood would be the exit, and that truth would come later. I did not know how later would arrive. I only knew I had to survive the present and keep Noah from becoming the next target. I left the morning after my 18th birthday, before sunrise, before anyone could stop me. I had one duffel bag, a bus ticket, and cash folded in socks. Elaine Knox was asleep, and Franklin Knox was already awake, moving through the house. I moved like a shadow, quiet and practiced, because noise was danger. Noah Knox stood in the hallway, eyes wide, holding his backpack strap. He asked if I was coming back, and I told him no, not to live. I told him I would call when I was safe, and I meant it. I hugged him fast, and I felt his body shake. Then I let go, because staying would break us both. On the bus, I watched the town shrink behind me, and my hands would not stop trembling. I kept thinking someone would grab my shoulder and drag me home. Nobody did, and the emptiness felt strange. I started nursing school with a job on nights, and I slept in short bursts. I learned to smile at strangers and not flinch when doors shut. I learned to breathe through memories and keep moving anyway. Elaine called 3 days later, and her voice sounded offended, not worried. She said, "You embarrassed your father." She said, "People are asking questions." She said, "You always do this. You push him, then you run." I told her I am safe, and Noah is the one she should protect. Elaine said Noah has a father, and I should stop being dramatic. She told me to come home, apologize, and keep the family together. I said no, and my voice stayed calm, because calm was my first boundary. Elaine cried, then turned sharp, and said, "You will regret this when you are alone." She said, "You owe us for raising you," and she said Franklin is a good man. I ended the call without arguing, because arguing never saved me. For months after that, my phone stayed quiet, and the silence felt like freedom. I told myself Noah was safe, because Franklin still needed a mask. I told myself the violence was aimed at me, and leaving would end it. That belief held me together until the day Elaine called again, and her voice was not offended. It was frightened. It was 6 months after I left, and I was halfway through a night shift. My phone buzzed, and I almost ignored it, because the name still hurt. Elaine's voice came through thin and shaking, and she did not start with blame. She said, "You need to come. Something is happening with Noah." I asked what happened, and she hesitated, then told the truth in pieces. She said Franklin has been taking his anger out on Noah. She said Noah is smaller than you were, and he does not know how to dodge it. She said she tried to intervene, and Franklin told her to stay out of it. Then Elaine said she recorded it, and she whispered like the walls were listening. She said, I saved the audio. I can send it. You need proof. My stomach went cold, because the fear in her voice sounded real. I told her to get Noah out of the house, right now, and take him somewhere safe. Elaine said she cannot, because Franklin watches everything. She said she needs me to fix it like I always did. I told her I cannot fix him, but I can protect Noah. Elaine started crying, and she said, I am sorry. I am sorry. I did not stop it. She said I blamed you, because it was easier than facing him. I did not comfort her, because comfort was not the priority. I told her to send the recording to me, and then to delete it from her phone. I told her to write down dates and times, and to keep it hidden. When the file arrived, my hands shook so hard I could barely tap play. I listened once, then I stopped, because I did not need more to believe it. I needed it for evidence, not for pain. After my shift, I drove to the hospital records office and requested my old files. The clerk asked why, and I said personal documentation. I collected visit summaries and notes and patterns that were always explained away. I created a folder like I was building a case, because I was. That night I called a social worker friend and asked what steps protect a teenager fast. I stopped thinking like a daughter and started thinking like a nurse with documentation. Noah needed an exit, and this time, I was not leaving him behind. A month later, Elaine texted me one detail that made my blood turn cold. She said, Franklin is being honored at church, a big event, a Man of the Year award. She said he wants the whole family there, smiling, for photos. She said he told everyone you are coming back, because you finally realized you were wrong. Elaine asked if I could play along, just once, so we can get Noah out cleanly. I stared at the message and felt disgust rise, then settle into strategy. Franklin wanted an audience, and an audience can also be witnesses. I told Elaine I will come, but only on my terms. I told her Noah needs to be ready to leave with me that night. I told her to pack his essentials quietly and keep them hidden. I called Monica Reeves, the church event coordinator, from a number Franklin did not know. I asked about seating, timing, and whether security would be present. Monica sounded cheerful and said there will be around 200 people. I thanked her, and I did not explain why details mattered. Then I met with an advocate and asked how to report safely. I asked what happens when the abuser is respected publicly and the victim has paperwork. I printed my medical records, and I saved copies of the audio, and I stored everything in a cloud folder. I told myself I would not get pulled into his performance. Not again. The night of the event, I parked far away and walked in with my shoulders squared. The church smelled like candles and comfort and lies. Franklin stood near the front, smiling, shaking hands, acting blessed. Elaine sat beside him, eyes tired, hands clenched. Noah sat on the other side, too quiet, staring at the floor. When he saw me, his face flickered with hope, then fear. I sat in the back row with my folder in my bag, and I waited. If Franklin wanted a stage, then I would use it to end the story he told everyone. The program moved forward like a well-rehearsed play, and Franklin Knox enjoyed it. Monica Reeves introduced him with bright words, and the crowd clapped on cue. Franklin stood, smiled, and waved like a man who had never harmed anyone. Elaine Knox sat beside him, hands tight in her lap, eyes fixed on the stage. Noah Knox stayed small, shoulders curved inward, trying to disappear in a church pew. When Monica called Franklin up, he walked to the microphone slowly, savoring the attention. He started speaking about faith and family and discipline, and he used the word love often. The crowd nodded, because people nod when they want a simple story. Then Franklin turned toward the seats and said his daughter is here tonight, and he wants to welcome her back. Heads turned, and 100 eyes searched the room. I stood up in the back row, and the air changed instantly. Franklin's smile widened, and he opened his arms, like forgiveness was his gift. I walked down the aisle with my folder held close, steps steady, breathing control. Monica looked surprised, then unsure, and she shifted the microphone toward me politely. Franklin whispered that I should behave, and his voice carried a threat he thought only I understood. I looked at Monica and said I need 1 minute, and my voice was calm. I faced the crowd, and I said my name is Brianna Knox, and I am not here to perform. I said I am here because Noah Knox needs safety, and because truth matters. The room went quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy. Franklin laughed softly, like I was a joke, and he said she is emotional. I opened my folder and held up the hospital records, dated over years. I said these are medical notes, and they show a pattern that was always explained away. I said Elaine Knox recorded Franklin Knox recently, and the audio exists. Franklin's face tightened, and he reached toward my folder, but I stepped back. I did not shout. I did not plead. I simply said enough. I looked at Noah and asked him to stand, only if he felt safe. Noah stood slowly, eyes wet, and the room stopped breathing. Noah Knox stood beside his seat, and his hands shook, but he did not sit back down. Franklin Knox stepped toward him, smiling too hard, trying to pull him close. Elaine Knox moved between them, finally, body tense, voice thin. She told Franklin to stay still, and for the first time he listened. Monica Reeves looked panicked, and she asked if someone should call security. Gloria Sinclair, my grandmother, rose from the second row like a storm. She walked to the aisle, and her voice cut through the room, clean and sharp. She said, I have watched this family for decades, and I am done pretending. Crowd murmured, confused and uncomfortable, but nobody left. Franklin tried to speak again, and Gloria raised her hand and said, stop. Noah looked straight ahead and said he hurts me now, and he thinks nobody will believe it. Those words landed harder than any folder, because they were simple. Elaine started crying, real and messy, and she said I stayed silent, and I was wrong. She said I blamed my daughter, because I was afraid of my husband. Franklin snapped that this is a lie, and he pointed at me, calling me bitter. Gloria said you can call her anything, but the records exist, and the audio exists. Monica stepped back from the microphone, and her face went pale. A church elder moved toward the stage, whispering to another, and someone pulled out a phone. I asked Monica to pause the event, and I asked the crowd to stay seated. I said there is a minor who needs protection, and we are leaving. Franklin tried to block the aisle, and 2 men from the church stepped in front of him. The room was not cheering, it was stunned. But stunned is still witnesses. Gloria put her hand on Noah's shoulder, and Noah leaned into it like he finally could. I took Noah's backpack, and I held the folder tighter, and we walked out together. Elaine followed, crying and shaking, and Franklin stayed on the stage, yelling into a microphone that no longer mattered. Outside, the cold air hit my lungs, and I could breathe again. I called the non-emergency line. Then I called a youth advocate, and I told them Noah is leaving with me tonight. The next days moved fast, like a chain reaction that could not be stopped. Jordan was not part of this story, so I leaned on an advocate, and on Gloria Sinclair, and on clear documentation. The recording Elaine Knox sent was given to the proper people through the right channels. The medical records were copied, dated, and stored safely, because paper outlives denial. Noah Knox did not go back to that house. He stayed with me at first, then with Gloria when we arranged a stable plan. Elaine left too, not with drama, but with a bag and a trembling kind of honesty. Franklin Knox lost the honor he wanted, and the church board removed his titles quickly. People who praised him before stopped meeting his eyes, and that silence was its own sentence. Franklin tried to contact us, and we documented every attempt, and the authorities set limits. Then Franklin tried revenge, because that is what control looks like when it is cornered. He drained money meant for Noah's future, and he blamed me for forcing his hand. Gloria did not flinch. She organized help quietly, and the community stepped up in ways I did not expect. Noah received support for school and for counseling, and his shoulders began to drop little by little. Elaine started therapy, because guilt without change is only noise. She apologized to me without excuses, more than once, and she listened when I said trust takes time. I kept working as a nurse, and I kept my life simple, because chaos was never my friend. Some nights I still woke up tense, hearing old footsteps in my memory. Then I would look at Noah asleep in the next room, safe, and I would breathe. I did not win a fight. I ended a pattern. Franklin wanted a stage to polish his image, and I used that stage to protect a child. That is the only ending I cared about. The morning after the church event, I met with an advocate and a caseworker, and I brought everything. I brought the medical records, and I brought the audio file, and I brought a written timeline. Noah sat beside Gloria Sinclair, shoulders tight, eyes tired, and still brave. Elaine Knox showed up too, face swollen from crying, hands shaking, finally telling the truth without protecting anyone. The caseworker asked simple questions, and Noah answered in short, steady sentences. He said Franklin Knox hurt him, and he said he was scared at home. He said he did not feel safe, and he did not want to go back. The caseworker asked Elaine why she stayed silent, and Elaine said fear and shame, and the lie she called loyalty. She said she blamed me for years, because it kept the mask intact. Hearing it out loud felt like swallowing metal. But it mattered, because the truth finally had witnesses. Monica Reeves called that afternoon, voice strained, and she asked what she should do as event coordinator. I told her to document what she saw, and to save every message, and she did. The church board called next, and they sounded stunned, like their world cracked in a single night. They asked if this was real, and I said yes, and the records exist, and the report is filed. By evening, Franklin was removed from volunteer leadership, and his name was quietly taken off the honor list. People who praised him last week stopped returning his calls this week. Franklin tried to reach me twice, then tried to reach Noah through Elaine. We documented every attempt, and the advocate helped file for a protective order. When the temporary order was granted, a deputy served it, and Franklin Rage finally met a line he could not cross. He started telling people I was bitter, and I wanted attention, and I was destroying a good man. I did not respond, because responding gives him oxygen. I kept my focus on Noah, on school placement, on counseling, on stability. That night Noah slept on my couch, a light on in the hallway, and he did not wake up once. In the morning he asked if he was in trouble, and I told him no. I told him the adults are finally being watched, and he is finally protected. Franklin Knox did what controlling people do when they lose control. He tried to punish everyone. He emptied the account meant for Noah's future, and he did it fast. Elaine told me in a trembling voice, like she was reporting a theft, because she was. She said Franklin took the college fund money, and said he needed it for legal costs. She said he blamed me, and said this would not be happening if I stayed quiet. Noah heard that, and his face shut down for a day, like a door closing. I told him that fund was never his fault, and the theft is not his shame. Gloria Sinclair stepped in like she always does, direct and steady. She called the bank, called the lawyer, and called the school counselor, in that order. She also called people who actually cared, the ones Franklin used to impress. Some of them were furious, not at me, but at him. A few families from church quietly offered help for Noah's school needs and counseling costs. Gloria organized it without spectacle, because she hates performance even when it is helpful. She said the goal is safety, not revenge. Franklin tried to smear us online, posting vague statements about betrayal and an ungrateful daughter. The church board removed his access to group pages, and the posts stopped. Franklin then tried to corner Elaine, telling her to come back and fix this. Elaine stayed away, shaking but firm, because now she had nowhere left to hide. She started therapy, not as a show, but as work, and she apologized to Noah first. She told him she failed him, and she will not fail him again. Noah did not forgive fast, but he listened, and that was still progress. I kept working my nursing shifts, because routine kept me stable. Some nights I came home exhausted, and Noah was doing homework at my table, and I felt a quiet rage. Not the rage that screams, the rage that builds. Franklin wanted to break us, and instead he exposed himself deeper. The more he tried to punish, the more people saw the pattern. And once people see a pattern, it is hard to unsee it. 6 months after that night, Noah looks taller, not only in height, but in spirit. He still startles at loud sounds sometimes, and he still checks doors twice. But he laughs more, and his shoulders sit lower, and he sleeps through the night. He goes to counseling weekly, and he calls it his brain gym, because humor makes hard things possible. Gloria Sinclair stays close, and she keeps her promises with actions, not speeches. Elaine Knox keeps showing up too, quietly, consistently, without asking for applause. She pays for therapy when she can. She brings groceries. She listens when Noah says no. She does not argue with his no, and that matters. Franklin Knox has a protective order, and consequences that do not care about his reputation. He lost the honor he chased, and he lost the rooms where he used to feel powerful. He still tells a story where he's the victim, but the people who matter have stopped listening. I stopped listening too. I used to think the hardest part was surviving the years inside that house. Now I know the hardest part was accepting that my mother chose the mask over me for a long time. Elaine is trying now, and I see the effort. But effort does not erase history. It builds a new one. Slowly, if it stays honest. Noah asked me once if I regret speaking up in that church. I told him no, and I meant it. I told him the truth does not need permission, and safety does not wait for perfect timing. I told him I would do it again, every time, for him. When I look back, I do not see a revenge story. I see a rescue, and a record, and a child who finally got believed. That is the only victory I want, and it is enough. 2 weeks after the church night, the protective order hearing arrived, and I did not go alone. Gloria Sinclair came with me, and the advocate sat beside us. Elaine Knox showed up too, eyes swollen, hands shaking, still telling the truth. Noah Knox did not attend, because safety is not a spectacle. Franklin Knox walked in wearing his Sunday face, pressed shirt, calm smile, like a man who believes charm is evidence. He told the judge this is a misunderstanding, and he said his daughter is unstable. He said I want attention, and he said my mother is confused. The judge did not react to the performance. The judge asked for facts. The advocate submitted the audio, and the timeline, and the medical records. The judge asked Elaine why she recorded Franklin, and Elaine told the truth without decorations. She said she was scared, and she finally stopped lying. Franklin turned toward her, eyes sharp, and Elaine flinched, but she did not take it back. Gloria stood when invited, and her voice carried weight. She said she has seen the pattern for years, and she regrets not intervening sooner. Franklin tried to interrupt, and the judge told him to stop. Then the judge asked one question that made the room go still. The judge asked Franklin if he can agree to no contact with Noah, and Franklin said no. He said Noah belongs at home, and he said I am kidnapping my brother. The judge looked down at the record, then looked up again, and the answer was clear. The order became longer term, with strict limits and consequences for violation. Franklin left the courtroom furious, because law does not bow to reputation. That afternoon, the church board announced Franklin removal publicly, short and plain. Monica Reeves called me later, voice tight, and said people are asking questions. She said she is documenting everything, because she does not want another child harmed under a mask. Franklin lost more than a title. He lost access to the rooms where he hid. He tried calling my workplace twice, and security blocked him. He tried sending messages through distant relatives, and I did not answer. I kept my focus on Noah, on school, on counseling, on routines that feel normal. Every day we stayed consistent. The fear loosened a little more. When Elaine told me Franklin emptied Noah's college account, I watched Noah's face go blank. He did not cry. He went quiet, and that scared me more. It was the same quiet I learned as a child, the quiet that tries to survive. I sat with him at my kitchen table, and I told him the truth carefully. I told him money is not love, and theft is not his fault. I told him Franklin did it to punish, because punishment is all he knows. Noah asked if he will ever get to leave Ohio, and I told him yes. I told him we will make a plan, and we will not let fear decide. Gloria Sinclair handled the practical steps like a general. She called the bank, asked for records, and documented the withdrawals. She called a financial counselor and asked what protections can be built now. She also called people Franklin used to impress, the ones who praised him loudly. When they heard what happened, some went silent and some got angry, not at us, at him. A family from church offered to cover counseling costs for 3 months. A retired teacher offered tutoring because Noah missed school during the chaos. Gloria accepted help without theater, and she kept Noah's name private. She said support should feel safe, not exposed. Noah started a new routine: school, counseling, homework, dinner, sleep out. He called his counselor sessions brain training, and he smiled when he said it. Elaine began working extra shifts, and she offered to contribute to Noah's future, slowly. She did not ask for praise, she only asked what Noah needed. Some nights Noah still checked the front door twice, then asked if Franklin can find him. I told him no, and I meant it, because the order is real, and we follow it. Franklin tried to smear us online again, vague posts about betrayal and family attacks. The church removed his access, and the posts stopped. I learned something in that season. Reputation can hide harm for years, but records and witnesses break the spell. Gloria used to say truth is slow, but it wins when you keep it steady. Watching Noah sleep through the night, I finally understood her. By the end of the first year, Elaine Knox looked different. Not polished, but honest. She stopped defending Franklin, and she stopped asking me to soften the story. She went to therapy weekly, and she brought back language that sounded new. She said accountability, and she said harm, and she said I failed you. She said those words to me without excuses, and that mattered. Still, I did not rush forgiveness, because forgiveness is not a gift you hand out to stop discomfort. I set rules, and I kept them simple. Elaine can see Noah only when Noah agrees, and only in safe places. Elaine cannot bring messages from Franklin, and she cannot ask me to keep secrets. Elaine accepted those rules, and she did not argue this time. Noah stayed cautious, but he began to speak more. One evening he told me he likes math, and he wants to study engineering someday. The dream sounded small, then grew as he said it out loud. Gloria Sinclair smiled and told him dreams get bigger in safe rooms. I kept working my nursing job, and I kept my life quiet because noise still felt dangerous. Some nights I woke up tense, hearing old footsteps that are not there. Then I would breathe, check on Noah, and go back to bed. Franklin remained outside our lives, and that boundary stayed firm. The order held, and every violation attempt was documented. Franklin lost friends, lost roles, and lost the audience he fed on. He still told a story where he is the victim, but fewer people listened. Elaine asked me once if she can rebuild our relationship. I told her yes, but slowly, and only with truth. She nodded and said slow is fair. That it is the first time she chose my safety over his comfort. It did not erase the past, but it started a different future. Noah deserves a childhood that is not fear, and I deserve a life that is not silence. We are building both, one steady day at a time. After the protective order became official, Franklin Knox started losing things fast, and he blamed us for all of it. He lost his church roles, then his volunteer access, then the small power he fed on. He tried to show up anyway, acting calm, acting wronged, acting entitled. Each time, he was turned away, and each time, he grew louder. Gloria Sinclair told me to expect that, because control does not leave quietly. Noah Knox noticed the change first, not in Franklin, but in the town. Adults who used to praise Franklin stopped greeting him. People who used to laugh at his jokes looked away. A few families quietly apologized to me and said they did not know. I thanked them, but I did not let comfort replace accountability. Elaine Knox kept therapy appointments and kept her distance from Franklin. She stopped passing messages, and she stopped using excuses. She told Noah she believes him, and she repeated it often. Noah did not celebrate. He listened, and he watched for consistency. I kept my home routines tight because predictable days build safety. School, dinner, homework, sleep, and lights off at the same time. Noah started playing basketball again, and he looked less tense on the court. One evening he asked if Franklin can still hurt us, and I told him the order is real. I told him that adults are watching now, and the paper trail is strong. Noah nodded slowly, then asked if he can invite a friend over. That simple question felt like progress, because fear makes you hide. Gloria made chili, and we ate at my table, and Noah laughed at something small. I watched him laugh, and I felt grief and relief together. I did not get my childhood back, but Noah might get his. Franklin sent one letter through a distant cousin, full of blame and religion words. The cousin apologized and handed it over, and I gave it to the advocate. We documented it, and we moved on. Franklin wanted attention, and he wanted a reaction. I refused to give him either, because peace is not silence. Peace is boundaries enforced, and a child who can breathe. By the next spring, Noah Knox started talking about the future, like it belonged to him. He asked about college tours and trade programs and scholarships. He asked about engineering, because he likes systems and answers. He said machines make sense, people do not. I told him people can make sense too, when they choose honesty. Gloria Sinclair helped him research schools, and she printed lists and highlighted deadlines. Elaine Knox contributed when she could, quietly and without drama. She took extra shifts, cut expenses, and asked Noah what he needed. She did not demand forgiveness, and she did not ask for praise. That hurt more than her words. The community support Gloria organized stayed discreet, but it stayed steady. A retired math teacher tutored Noah once a week. A neighbor helped with college essays, because writing is hard when your life was survival. I kept my nurse schedule, and I learned to protect my energy. Some nights memories still hit like a wave, and I would pause, breathe, and keep moving. Noah kept counseling, and he called it training, because framing helps. He learned grounding skills, and he used them when loud sounds startled him. Elaine learned too, and she stopped minimizing, and she stopped telling him to toughen up. Franklin Knox tried to appeal the order, then failed. He tried to shift blame, then fewer people listened. He lost the ability to hide behind public virtue, and he hated that. One afternoon, Noah came home with a letter, an acceptance email printed at school. He had been accepted into a summer program, focused on math and robotics. His hands shook when he showed it to me, like good news still feels dangerous. I hugged him, and Gloria hugged him, and Elaine cried softly and did not make it about herself. Noah smiled, then asked if this means he can leave someday. I told him yes, and I meant it. I told him leaving is not running, leaving is choosing safety. That night, Noah taped the acceptance letter to his wall. He looked at it before bed, like proof that life can widen again. For the first time, the future felt louder than the past. At the 1-year mark, Gloria Sinclair hosted a small dinner. Just family and a few trusted friends. No stage, no microphones, no church spotlight. Elaine Knox asked if she could speak, and the room went quiet. She said I lied for years, and I blamed my daughter, and it was wrong. She said I protected a mask, and I did not protect my children. She did not say but, and she did not say stress, and she did not say you know how he gets. She said I was afraid, and I chose the wrong side. Hearing it out loud felt like a knot loosening, and also like pain returning. I did not clap, and I did not forgive on command. I only nodded, because truth is the first requirement. A cousin asked why Elaine stayed so long, and Elaine answered without decoration. She said she thought silence kept the peace, and now she knows silence fed the harm. Gloria looked at her and said, "Keep telling the truth, even when it costs you comfort." Noah Knox listened from the end of the table, quiet and steady. After dinner he told Elaine he needs time, and Elaine said I understand, and she did not argue. Later, when it was just me and Noah, he asked if I think people can change. I told him some people can, when they choose truth daily, not once. I told him that change is proven by behavior, not by tears. Noah nodded, then said he feels safer now, and his voice was small. That sentence mattered more than any apology. Franklin Knox remained outside our lives, and he stayed angry. He tried to contact Elaine again, and Elaine refused. She sent the message through the advocate, and she documented it. For years, I carried shame that was never mine. Now shame sits where it belongs, with the choices that created it. I am not rebuilding a perfect family. I am building a safe one. Noah is the center of that, and I will not compromise again. Franklin Knox did not accept the order. He only looked for side doors. He could not reach Noah directly, so he tried the places Noah still had to go. He called the school office and asked to be added as an emergency contact again. The receptionist followed policy and refused, and she told the counselor. The counselor called me, and my stomach tightened because the pattern was familiar. Franklin also showed up near the campus once, sitting in his car, watching. He did not step out because he wanted to scare without violating loudly. We reported it anyway because quiet intimidation is still intimidation. The advocate helped file the report, and the officer took it seriously. Gloria Sinclair reminded me that documentation is a shield, not a hobby. Elaine Knox heard about it and started shaking, then she steadied. She called the advocate herself and asked how to support the case without hiding. That was new, and it mattered. Noah Knox asked if Franklin can take him back, and his voice sounded small. I told him no. The order is real, and adults are watching now. I told him that fear is a memory, not a prophecy. He nodded, and he went to his room, then came back with his homework. That choice, homework instead of panic, felt like progress. Franklin tried again through a cousin, sending a message about forgiveness and family. I did not respond, and the cousin apologized for delivering it. We documented that too, because boundaries hold only when you treat them as real. A week later, a deputy served Franklin a warning for contact attempts. Franklin rage finally met a consequence that did not care about his mood. That night, Noah slept with his door cracked open and the hallway light on. In the morning, he asked if we can switch the light off soon. I said yes, when you are ready, and you decide the pace. The summer program Noah earned changed more than his schedule. It changed his posture. He came home talking about robots and circuits and solving problems with patience. He laughed about small mistakes, and he did not look ashamed. Gloria Sinclair drove him the first day and waited in the parking lot because she does not trust the world easily. Elaine Knox packed snacks and wrote a note, then let Noah read it privately. She did not demand a hug, and she did not ask for credit. Noah started saying, "Thank you," without fear that it would be used against him. That was a bigger shift than any award night. Meanwhile, the church kept handling the fallout. Monica Reeves forwarded a request from the board. They wanted a written statement for their internal record. I gave the advocate a factual timeline, and the advocate delivered it. The board did not want drama. They wanted protection, and that was the point. Franklin Knox tried to claim he was targeted unfairly, But witnesses remembered what they saw. They remembered Noah standing, and Gloria speaking, and Elaine admitting silence. When people have a clear moment burned into memory, rewriting gets harder. Noah asked if he has to testify in court someday, and I told him only if required. I told him his job is healing, not performing. He accepted that, and he kept going to counseling, steady and consistent. One evening he told me he wants to apply for an engineering track in college. He said he wants a dorm room far away, with a desk and quiet. I smiled, then cried later alone, because dreaming used to be dangerous in our family. Now dreaming sounded like freedom. By the next winter, our home felt calmer, not perfect, but safe. Noah Knox stopped checking locks twice, and started choosing music for dinner. He still had hard days, but he recovered faster because he had support. Gloria Sinclair kept routines, and she kept boundaries, and she made safety feel normal. Elaine Knox kept showing up with consistency, not speeches. She asked Noah what he needs, and she accepted no without punishment. My own healing surprised me, because I did not realize how much I lived braced. As a nurse, I can handle chaos at work, but home should not feel like a shift. Now, it does not. Franklin Knox stayed outside the fence, angry and powerless, and that was not my victory. My victory was Noah learning that peace is possible. One night Noah told me he wants to volunteer, helping younger kids with math. He said he wants to be the person he needed when he was scared. I told him that is strength, not revenge. He nodded, and he looked proud, in a quiet way. I thought about my younger self, counting footsteps, waiting for morning. I wish I could reach back and tell her, "You will get out. And you will come back with receipts and courage. You will protect your brother, and you will not be alone." That is what this story really is, not a collapse, but a rebuild. A child believed, a mother learning truth, a grandmother holding the line, and a sister who finally chose safety over silence. By the time Noah Knox turned 18, the house felt like ours, not a trap. He had routines, he had counseling, and he had space to breathe. He also had choices, which used to be a forbidden luxury. Gloria Sinclair helped him tour schools, steady and practical, never dramatic. Elaine Knox came to one visit, quiet and respectful, letting Noah lead. Noah walked through a campus lab, and his eyes lit up fast. He talked about circuits, systems, and how problems can be solved fairly. I watched him speak, and I realized fear was leaving his body. Franklin Knox tried one last time to disrupt that progress, through paperwork. He filed a motion, claiming he deserved contact and authority again. Court reviewed the record, the audio, the timeline, and the prior order. The answer was no, and the judge did not hesitate. The order stayed in place, and the limits were reinforced in writing. Franklin left angry, but anger does not change documents. Monica Reeves told me the church updated its youth policies, quietly but firmly. Background checks, reporting training, and clear procedures for concerns. Monica said it was overdue, and she sounded ashamed it took this. Noah heard that, and he nodded, like a person who understands systems. He said if one rule helps one kid, it matters. The scholarship problem still sat heavy, because Franklin emptied that money. Gloria turned it into a plan, and she did not waste time grieving the theft. She organized discreet support, and I added what I could, month by month. Elaine contributed too, without asking for credit, and she kept showing up. Noah applied for grants, wrote essays, and asked for recommendations. When an acceptance letter arrived with financial aid attached, he stared at it. He whispered that he thought he would be stuck forever. I told him that stuck is a lie fear tells, and he is free. That night, he packed a small box, labeled dorm, and set it by his door. He did not hide it, and he did not apologize for hope. I sat in my kitchen after he went to bed and cried quietly. I did not cry from sadness only. I cried from relief. For years, I survived. Now, I was watching Noah live. The week before Noah left for school, Elaine Knox asked to speak with me alone. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Noah did homework safely. Elaine did not bring excuses, and she did not bring tears as currency. She brought a notebook and a list, like a person finally doing work. She said she wrote down every time she blamed me to understand herself. She said she sees how she used silence like a shield, then called it peace. She said she is sorry, and she said it without the word, but I listened, and I kept my face calm, because calm protects me. Elaine said she wants to repair, not erase, and she knows it takes time. She asked what I need to feel safe with her, and I told her clearly. No secrets, no messages from Franklin, no pressure on Noah. Ever. Elaine nodded, and she repeated the rules back to me, word for word. She said she will keep therapy, and she will keep showing up consistently. She said she will accept distance, if distance is what we need. That was new, and it mattered, because control was the old language. Gloria Sinclair walked in halfway through, heard the tone, and stayed silent. After Elaine left, Gloria asked me how I felt, and I said cautious. Gloria nodded, and said cautious is wise. Trust is a building, not a switch. Noah came home later, saw my face, and asked if everything is okay. I told him yes, and I told him the truth. Elaine is trying. Noah stared at his hands, then said he is glad she is trying, but he is not ready. I told him he decides the pace, and nobody gets to rush him. The night before move-in, Noah asked me a question in the dark. He asked if I regret coming back into this family storm at all. I told him no, never, not once, because you are safe now. He let out a long breath, and it sounded like release. In the morning we loaded the car, and Noah sat in the passenger seat smiling. He looked like a person who expects good things, and that was the miracle. After Noah moved into his dorm, my phone stayed quiet for a few weeks. Then Franklin Knox tried to make noise again, because silence starves him. He posted online about forgiveness, and family restoration, and being misunderstood. He hinted that he was attacked by lies, and he asked people to pray. Some people liked the post, out of habit, then stopped commenting. The community had learned what performance looks like, and they were tired. Monica Reeves told me the church board will not platform him again. Not ever. Gloria Sinclair told me to keep documenting, because patterns return when you relax. Elaine Knox saw the post and she did not panic. She reported it through the proper channel. She sent the screenshot to the advocate, and she did not engage publicly. That was progress. Not perfect, but real. Franklin tried to contact Noah through an old friend, and the friend refused. Noah told me about it calmly, like he was reporting weather. He said he is done being scared, and he is done being baited. He said he will not feed the story Franklin wants to tell. Hearing Noah say that, I felt something click into place. The past still exists, but it does not control the present anymore. I kept working my nursing shifts, and I kept my home quiet. I kept Thursday dinners with Gloria, and sometimes Elaine joined quietly. Noah called from campus, talking about classes and the labs, sounding excited. Every call sounded like proof that safety works. Franklin can post whatever he wants, but the record is still there. The audio exists, the documents exist, the order exists, and the witnesses exist. I do not need to chase him, because truth does not run. It stands, and it waits, and it keeps children alive. A year after Noah Knox left for college, I stopped measuring healing by quiet. Quiet can be peace, and quiet can be fear. What matters is choice, and Noah has choices now. He calls me from his dorm room, talking about labs, homework, and friends. He sounds like a teenager who expects tomorrow, and that is the whole point. Gloria Sinclair still hosts Thursday dinner, steady and warm. Elaine Knox still shows up, not to perform, but to work. She keeps therapy, keeps boundaries, and keeps her mouth closed when Franklin Knox tries to bait her. She does not ask Noah for comfort anymore, and she does not ask me to soften the story. That is what change looks like. Not a speech, but a pattern of better decisions. Franklin tried every angle: prayer posts, pity lines, and vague accusations. He wanted the community to forget, and he wanted us to react. We did not. Monica Reeves told me the church policy updates stayed in place, and the board refuses to platform him again. Franklin can complain about unfairness, but rules finally exist, and rules protect kids. One afternoon, Noah told me something that made my chest loosen. He said he can walk into a room now and not scan for danger first. He said he does not flinch when someone raises a voice. He said he still has hard moments, but he knows how to come back to himself. I told him that is strength, and he laughed and said it is practice. He thanked me for coming back for him, and I had to pause, because gratitude still hurts sometimes. I told him I would choose him again, every single time. People ask if I hate my mother, and I tell them the truth. I do not live on hate. I live on boundaries. Elaine hurt me, and she failed us, and she is responsible for that. If she keeps choosing truth, we can build something new, slowly and carefully. If she ever returns to excuses, I will step back, because safety is not negotiable. Franklin does not get access. Not to me, not to Noah, not to our peace. The record exists, and the witnesses exist, and the order exists. My story is not about revenge. It is about rescue. It is about ending a mask and giving a kid a future. That is enough, and I will protect it for the rest of my life.